ahead and call the meeting to order at 7:06. Welcome to the meeting of the Marin Local Agency Information Commission. We're happy to have you all here. Vita, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bailey? Absent. Commissioner Baker? Commissioner Conley, absent. Commissioner Bajoni? Commissioner Murray? Commissioner McEntee?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Caius?
Here.
Commissioner Skelton?
Present.
And Judy Arnold as absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And we have Commissioner Brown seated for Commissioner Bailey, and we have Commissioner Skelton seated because we have no public member right now. All right. Agenda review. Is there any comments on the agenda? Anybody want to change anything? I have a motion to approve the agenda.
Approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Moved by Baker, seconded by Murray. All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, all right. Public open time. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the commission on any matter not on the current agenda. So if it's something that's on the agenda, wait till we get there and we'll do public comment then. All statements that require a response will be referred to staff for reply in writing or be placed on the commission's agenda for consideration at a later meeting. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment? And if you would come to the mic. No? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, no public comment. I will close the public comment. We are going to go into closed session regarding the commission clerk position, and we will be back shortly. All right, we will return to open session. We did not take any action. Oops, sorry. We'll return to open session now. We did not take any action in closed session. All right, we'll move to the consent calendar. These are items that are considered ministerial or non-substantive and subject to a single motion approval. And I will consider any request to pull an item for discussion. I would like to pull the minutes. Anyone else want to pull anything else? No? Do I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent calendar, which would be item 2? Moved by Commissioner Baker, seconded by Commissioner Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Let's go to the minutes. And you have on the dais a corrected set of minutes. There were a number of clerical errors and things like that in them. So these are corrected. I think Jack had a couple other, I don't know if you want to bring
Well,
up
I
any
had
other
quite a number of
I don't know if you-
items, scattering of everything from some misspellings, typos, some of the
Yeah,
grammatical.
Madam Chair.
and,
Yes.
So as Jason Fried, Executive Officer, my apologies. I want to apologize for the minutes that were put in there. They were an earlier draft that should not have been put in the packet. We do have quite a few changes. You have a set of minutes, as you've already mentioned, in front of you. What I would suggest you do is amend and replace the entire set of minutes to the set that's in front of you. We will take a look at what Commissioner Baker, I know he had given us some written ones when he walked into the meeting today. We can take and cross-check those and see which ones of them are still actually legitimate and which ones were actually fixed already with the corrected minutes.
well, I see, without going through, I mean, I've got anything from like 2 to a dozen notes on every page. And some are,
Maybe that one.
yeah, page 3, that's staff presented background information on, this is item 4. Well, there's no, what background
Yeah,
information?
we could also, instead of trying to approve these today, we can just take this and put it on the meeting for the next meeting.
Why don't we,
and-
why don't we do that?
Yeah.
And I would like to see line numbers on these minutes, and actually kind of on all the staff reports, so that you can refer to, the comment on line, anybody have any objection to line numbers?
Fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we will continue that to the next meeting.
And I'll give this to you, you saw it briefly, and then I should look at it too.
All right, we'll move to the business items. Jason, you want to give the staff report for item 3?
Sure. Jason Fried, Executive Officer. Item number 3, I presented to you at the last meeting as an informational hearing. Today it is the could potentially be the final approval of this item. It is a application for the lot, and I'm going to pull up the map here for you for just 1 second as a quick reminder. This parcel of land, there was a question about the back fence and what the exact lot line was for the backside. The applicant and the county's flood control agency worked together to readjust the lot line, came up with an agreement, and are waiting for us to take action in order to have that agreement go into effect. What you will see on the big map here is you see this really weird looking fence line that kind of goes like this and then like that. That is the old fence line. This line right here is the creek, which is what they're concerned with, having a fence line too close to that creek. When the applicant went to go fix the back fence, which had been there before they bought it, that's when this whole process came to be realized. They came to the settlement, which is now, I believe, this fence line here, which is a much straighter, not wiggly type line. That is going to be what would be accepted as the new fence line. This back portion, which is all shaded, is actually right now in the city of Novato, where the rest of their property, which is how you actually access the property if you were driving a vehicle, is all in unincorporated part, which is this part here. Here's like the driveway and the street that gets to them. So while LAFCOs, generally speaking, do not like to do detachments from cities because we're all in the business of actually annexing into cities and not detaching from them, I think there's always, in my opinion, there's always an exception to the rule, and this probably fits into that exception. We put this out for comment to all the interested agencies, all the impacted agencies. Everyone either came back as supportive of it or neutral on it. The city of Novato had the right to, after 60 days from the early hearing, could automatically reject this detachment because that is given to them under state government code. The city of Novato, that would have to be done through city council action. The city council took no action on the item. Therefore, to me, that says that they are neutral on it. City staff actually did confirm to me that from a city staff's perspective that the city was neutral on this detachment. So what's in front of you today is that the applicants are here, can ask any technical questions you may have about the agreements and all the other things that went into getting us to this spot. But I'm happy to take any questions from you at this time.
Any commissioner questions? Or did you have a question?
So in regards to the creek, is there any like creek group that reviews fence lines and things like this, working with Novato, or did they, any other input or?
Yeah, if you can go up to the mic, that'd be great, and state your name for the record if it's, is the mic on?
Is this on?
Okay.
Okay. My name's Marcella Tate. I'm here to represent my mom, Janice Tate, who owns 610 Calle de la Mesa in Novato. To answer your question, it is actually the flood control district that owns that parcel behind the property that they manage the creek. And as far as I know, they're the only ones that in any way have anything to do with it. Mm-hmm.
Once or twice before, we're not annexing to the county of Marin. It'll always be in the county of Marin. But that, I mean, that's not what this Exhibit A says. We're de-annexing from the city of Novato to.
Yes, the
But it's
application.
not, we're not annexing to the county, it's in the county.
Correct. The application, the way it was written, and the way that my predecessor believed it to be, had it written that way, the application is what the application is when it was submitted. I can't really change the application itself, but everywhere where you see me refer to it and where LAFCO is officially doing something on it, there is, it's referred to as a detachment.
Okay, just so that's kind of cleaned up.
Yes.
Okay.
In the resolution, it says detachment. Yep. Any other questions from the commission? Paul, is this a public hearing?
It is.
Okay. So we're not supposed to officially open the public hearing? Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry. It was, in the agenda, it says hearing, but it didn't say public hearing. Okay. All right, so I will now open the public hearing. Go ahead.
One other.
Sure. Please, Craig.
Just curious, so there's actually two separate parcels, or is it considered one parcel?
It's the flood control district that is considered one parcel. So it's my mom's parcel, and then it's up against their parcel. There's only two involved.
Okay, so the public parcel is the shaded area that'll be included with the private parcel, your parcel, is that correct?
Technically, as it stands now, yes.
Are there any public comments during the public hearing?
I have something quick I'd like to
Yes.
say. It's been kind of a long road. We've been doing this for 4 years next month. So as I mentioned before, my name's Marcella Tate. My mom, Janice Tate, owns the property, and she's lived in her home in Novato for 45 years. In 1973, my parents purchased their first home and specifically bought it for the backyard. The house was nice but simple, a typical tract house in a quiet neighborhood of Loma Verde. The backyard was exceptional, and that's really what drew their attention. The large backyard backed up to Novato Creek and offered plenty of space for a young family to enjoy with an in-ground pool and a private feeling offered from the trees in the creek. The residential purchase contract was one page and there were no disclosures. The fence line that existed was believed to be the property line, and there was no reason to think otherwise. Disclosures, buyer's inspections, and lot surveys were very different in the early 70s compared to how they are today. They often didn't exist or were just not very thorough. In January of 2015, the Flood Control District decided to remove a 350-year-old native valley oak tree from their land, and it was located very close to my mother's fence. During this removal, it was brought to her attention that my mom was encroaching on the Flood Control District's land, and we were shocked. The removal of the oak tree was already a huge loss and forever changed the landscape of any window we looked out of. Based on what they said was my mom's actual property line, even the permitted in-ground pool that the county approved was past the lot's actual border. After extensive time and cost, the Flood Control District wrote up a legal agreement to allow lot line adjustment to correct the issue, and they also agreed to share the cost. When we went to the county to apply for the lot line adjustment in July of 2017, the assessor parcel numbers of the two lots showed that the Flood Control District's land was actually in the city, while my mom's lot is in the county. The land that was to be added to my mom's lot through the agreed lot line adjustment then became a much bigger issue. When we discovered then a catch-22 situation. Because of the City of Novato's urban growth boundary rules, we were told we cannot annex to the city. Even more disturbing, we were told that the city could not approve a lot line adjustment between our lot and the Flood Control District property. So the only solution was to de-annex the property from the city into the county jurisdiction. So now we are moving forward with our LAFCo application in hopes to be able to de-annex the 1,324 square foot piece of land from the city and add it to my mom's existing county lot. There are a few reasons why we are not comfortable with changing my mom's entire parcel to be city. The first reason that we are not comfortable with is being a city island. Loma Verde is an unincorporated Marin, and because of this, the sheriff has always responded to any emergencies in our neighborhood. My mom is 72, and I am not comfortable with there being the possibility of any confusion regarding an emergency issue. Who will show up, the city police or sheriff? Will they want to send the sheriff because of the address, or will they both show up? Who will pay for the confusion, and how would it affect my mom's care and the timing of the emergency services response? Another reason is that it simply doesn't make sense to turn a 7,950 square foot lot into city because we're adding 1,324 square feet. We have no problems with Loma Verde eventually turning into city jurisdiction, but we would rather support that measure when the entire subdivision of Loma Verde is being transferred over, not just my mom's house alone. One house in city jurisdiction surrounded by county is too problematic and doesn't make sense. My parents truly were victims of misrepresentation when they purchased their family home, and they have paid greatly for it. I ask that LAFCo considers an exception to the rule for this unique situation and allows the Flood Control District to complete the legal agreement the county authored in order to right a wrong that started back in the 1950s when the county approved an in-ground pool on their own land. This is my mother's only option for recourse. Thank you.
Any other comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for deliberation. Commissioner Skelton?
Question for staff. Is this property and the surrounding neighborhood part of a broader island?
Yes, this the larger neighborhood that they live in is considered an island, and as part of this agreement, actually, they have stated that should the larger island ever be looking to be annexed, they would not be opposed to that annexation. So, in some ways, if we can just get, I think there's a couple of hundred homes in this island. If we can get 150 more of them or so, we could potentially close off this island. But for now, it's an island, and it's the way it's going to be.
Where did it say that in the agreement?
It's not in the physical agreement that we have, but I believe it's with the Marin flood control. When you're part of that agreement, it's in that one, not with us.
Part of the settlement agreement
Yeah.
with the flood control district?
Correct.
And pardon me, I don't have the longevity of other commissioners here, but I thought there was either an explicit or implicit policy for that waiver proceedings for annexation, future annexations, or treatment of islands that you try to fold in when there are applications like this, knowing that it's more of a procedural formality.
If you wanted to, and I will negotiate with an open mic right now, we could probably ask the applicant if, as one condition of approval, is that they will assign some sort of agreement with us that says that they will not oppose the annexation of the island should that time ever come.
I'm not looking to create any additional conditions of approval. I was just trying to tie it back to consistency with historical applications and how we've done this in the past.
I would look to the rest of the commissioners to how you've done it in the past, since I wasn't here for those other
I think Chris
applications.
speaking to the dual annexation policy
Oh.
here in
Yeah.
Marin.
Thank you.
So, as Jason explained, it's a little bit odd since it's a little bit reversed, but I think the intent is similar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though it is already memorialized in the other settlement agreement, I think a little bit of belt and suspenders to include it here, just in case it does get misplaced or lost from another agency. And since at the end of the day, LAFCo is tasked with overseeing these matters, and it's certainly, I would say, more applicable to our agency as opposed to the flood control district, I'd recommend that we add a condition of approval along the lines of the dual annexation policy.
Mala, what are your thoughts on adding a condition, this kind of condition?
I'm comfortable with adding it. We just probably modify the resolution to do so.
And can we make that, can we approve it with that
You could,
amount tonight? Okay.
presuming the applicant is okay with that. Okay.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion on adding that condition or anything else?
I'm ready to move staff's recommendation with the amendment recommended.
One other small amendment, in the first whereas, I actually referred to, I put one extra one in the address. It should be 610 Calvin de la Mesa, and unfortunately it says 6110. So if you just make that one other small amendment as well.
I'll accept that change.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Rodoni, seconded by Commissioner Connolly. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. All right, item number 4, informational hearing on application 1339, 516 East Hospital Drive.
This is file number 1339. This is the former, I believe it's Navy base that's up in the Novato area that is being transformed over. The Air Force, my apologies, former Air Force base. The parcel of land that we're talking about is this one right in here. They're already within the city of Novato. They are looking to get annexed into the sanitary district up there, the Novato Sanitary District. I think this is going to probably be a very common thing that we're going to start getting is all of these areas that are in the former Navy or Air Force base are going to need to get annexed in because none of them were getting serviced by the Novato Sanitary District in the past. They're looking to do a senior care facility there. The building's basically already there, although they're remodeling it. This has already gone through the city of Novato approval process, and this is just kind of one of the steps that needs to be done for them to actually get connected into the Novato sewer system. So this is an informational only hearing today. If you have any questions, it's always good to try and get them out today so I can get them answered for you by the time our next meeting occurs, when this will in all likelihood be a public meeting. I will note that this is still out for public or for comment from the agencies. We have had this less than 30 days. And so we will, I'm waiting to hear back from all the agencies if they have any issues with this. But considering this has gone through the city of Novato's process already, I'm assuming everyone's going to be on board with it.
So Jason, in dealing with some of the former BRAC properties, often the descriptions are a little amorphic, sometimes one large APN. I believe what's shown here is a specific assessor parcel number for the property in question. Is that?
That is correct. And I should also add, the applicant has informed me after the staff memo was done that they had the wrong acreage size for this particular parcel. The particular parcel, it says I think 14.55 in your staff memo. The actual acreage size is 3.41, and that will be corrected. They're actually getting me, they're going to change their application, get the information to me shortly.
So are they resurveying it, new title insurance? What's their process to verify?
They actually verified, the sanitary district verified it as well, but I will find out from them what they did to recertify that.
Commissioner Baker?
Yeah, I'm just curious, I know about where this is. This is totally in the city of Nevada, right? We're not
Correct.
at the edge of the county.
No, this is
Okay.
from what I understand, this entire parcel is inside the city of Nevada now.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
And then and you noted the other, is this the one where the other two parcels are already in?
Yes, there are like 3 different parts that make this up. If you look at the full packet, there are 3 different parcel parts. We're only dealing with one of the 3. The first one is listed in the packet of information. The other 2 are already inside Novato Sanitary District. This is the one part that for whatever reason wasn't added in, so we're fixing that now.
Any other questions from the commission? No? All right. All right, thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 5, informational hearing on application 1340, 28 T-Berry Lane, annexation into sanitary district number 5.
So this one is down in the southern part of the city near Tiburon. It's unincorporated. This is, from what I understand, going to be a new development on this one parcel of land, which if you look up on the map is, the main portion here that's highlighted is the parcel we're talking about. They're not currently in the sanitary district down there. It's sanitary district number 5, and are looking to annex into it as part of the construction process. This one has also gone through the county's approval process. The county did the sequel review of it already. So this is another one of those projects similar to the last item where I think it's gone through all its paces. It came in last Friday, so it just barely made this agenda. And so we are just doing the review. It's still out for comment from the agencies. Once again, I don't expect the agencies to be opposing this, but we are waiting for comment back from them. And if you have any questions, today's a good day to get it so we can get answers for you by the next meeting.
Since this is an island, why is it not being annexed also into the town of Tiburon?
This is not an island in Tiburon. This is not.
It says on the application that it's an island. Number 6 on the questionnaire. Is the subject territory located within an island of unincorporated territory? Yes.
That is a good question. I will double check on that one.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Alrighty. Moving on. Item 6, request for time extension on application 1324, 1501 Lucas Valley Road.
Sure. This one is an application that was approved by the commission last year. There was a condition where they needed to get some approvals from the water agency. They have been having long, lengthy negotiations over what the conditions were that needed to be met. I understand that they actually just came to terms on it. Unfortunately, they came to terms after the agenda for the meeting that the water agency would have had to approve it before this deadline. So this item will be on their January agenda. And so the applicant is simply asking for a little bit of an extension to give the agency time to approve, because if we don't approve, this application automatically dies and we have to start all over again. And so they've actually already sent me a check in case we get approved tonight for the 1-year extension to be done.
Just Jason, just a comment, if I may.
Yeah.
You mentioned the approval, you meant the approval of the extension.
Correct.
So,
Craig, did you have a question?
This goes back a ways, and it seems like this has been extended, and they're just getting closer. They're almost right there at the finish line, and then they want another extension. It seems like we're being very accommodating.
This process actually this property has actually had two different applications. One was a sewer district and one is the water district. The sewer district was solved and resolved a long time ago. This is the water district one. It has been sitting around for a while. I'm not going to say that it hasn't. But supposedly both the applicant and the agency staff at least have agreed in terms, and now they're just waiting for the board's approval in January. I couldn't tell you if, it's up to you if you decide if you don't want to give the extension. That is, of course, your choice, but staff would recommend that we give this process the ability to finish itself
That's
off.
fine, but I just hope we don't see this again next
Yeah.
fall or something.
I would hope so too.
Any
I
other-
would move for approval.
Oh, wait, sorry. You know what? I just realized I also didn't do this on the past one. Is there any public comment? It looks like there's public comment.
Hi, Cassandra Hatch. I just wanted to address your comment, Mr. Baker. You're right. It has been going on for quite a while. In fact, our first LAFCo meeting, it was for the sanitary district and for MMWD, and that was December of 2014. So, but then afterwards, because we were in a drought, they, MMWD said that they didn't want to go ahead with the application, but yes, so it was bifurcated, and then we got an extension on the Las Colinas Sanitary District, and that was approved, and we're going ahead with our sewer lateral, and that's all good. So this is just the extension after the MMWD was
You
resurrected.
mentioned who you are as well.
Cassandra Hatch.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mayor.
Sorry. Craig, you have a question?
So this, more of kind of procedural thing, it may not apply, but it's certainly of interest for that section of Lucas Valley Road, is we have recycled water up to a certain point in Lucas Valley Road. Probably would have been interesting to see, particularly with the lack of potable water services during a period of time of extending the recycled water in that area, that could benefit many in the whole valley. And that might be something, it'll probably be a challenge for our executive officer, how to look at those in terms of providing better service in the area as part of these annexation agreements for water and sewer service in those locations. But I'm glad to see you finally getting MMWD approval, and sanitary approval was quite some time ago.
Any further deliberation? Okay, all right, so we've got a motion from Commissioner Connolly with it? or-
I'll second.
Oh, all right, so, and Commissioner Brown for the second, all in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. All right, item number 7, approval of the executive officer employment agreement. So Mala would be the
Yes.
report on that one? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair and members of the commission. As you're aware, Jason Fried has served as an interim executive officer since June 4th of 2018. He's done this through a contract with Plan West Partners. That agreement will expire at the end of the year. So what is before you is an employment agreement with Jason for executive officer services. It would be effective January 2nd, 2019. Provide for an annual salary of $142,000. It would include similar benefit package that is consistent with the County of Marin unrepresented employees, and their agreement would be set to expire on June 30th of 2019. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Molly, any consideration in terms of the gap? I know it's 1 or 2 days between the December and January when this agreement starts. Is that?
No, I think Jason maybe can address that, but I think we didn't think there was actually going to be a gap with December 31st ending and then January 1 being a holiday.
Yeah, I don't anticipate, I just so you're aware, I am planning to take a few days off at the end of December. The hours that I have with Plan West will run out, and it'll give me actually a chance to take a few days off before I start full-time, since I have been working so many hours and have not really had a vacation yet. So it'll be a good break for me, and everything will work well for you guys as well, because the office isn't open on January 1st any which way.
So we have to do a review within 6 months, and the agreement expires on June 30th. So we will have to do a review in April. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I'll now open it, the public comment. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Any further deliberations?
As a member of the subcommittee who negotiated this.
Turn on your mic.
As a member of the subcommittee who negotiated this, I'd be happy to move for approval.
Second.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Congratulations, Executive Officer Freed. No, I think that happens January 2nd, actually. Okay, moving on to item number 8, Plan West Professional Services Agreement related to MSR services specifically.
Yes, so the Plan West Professional Services Agreement will expire, as I mentioned, on December 31st, 2018. That agreement included for interim executive office services as well as municipal services review. So this agreement that is before you will just include for municipal services review. They are currently planning on doing the San Rafael and Novato area MSR studies. And it is of the same format of the agreement that you previously approved. And it will take effect as well on January 2nd.
Any questions? What about, as far as expenses, that was a little sort of thin there. Is there, is travel time included in that, or is it just?
The
Work
scope
time.
that you previously approved at your last meeting will still be applicable
Yeah.
for those 2 service reviews, and the term will expire at the end of the time that it's completed.
So they're not billing us for travel time, is what I'm asking, as far as you know. It doesn't look, anywhere in the agreement, there was nothing about
Yeah.
travel time.
Jason Freed, actually representing Plan West Partners here, since I'm still employed by them. The current agreement that you have with Plan West does allow for travel reimbursement costs to be included. As far as the MSR goes, they would be able to, if they have travel costs, they would be reimbursed for that. There really shouldn't be much, if any, travel for them under the MSR work itself. The only thing that they would potentially travel for, and we can have a discussion about this, is to come here to present the reports itself. And if we wanted to, we could potentially, if we were meeting in a room that had a setup like this, they could join us remotely and not have to travel at all. So it would really be a decision for us to make, as if we wanted them to travel down to present in person or via video.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Baker, seconded by Commissioner Murray. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, moving right along to item number 9, Budget and Work Plan Committee Report.
I'll yield to the chair of the committees for each of the reports first, and then go into any action items that are needed if the chair wants to give any report first.
Okay, Commissioner Rodoni is the chair.
So as the new chair of the Budget Committee, I'd like to report that we followed the recommendations of staff, making adjustments in some of the budget line, basically having no impact on the bottom line, but we just shifted some numbers around to balance some of the individual categories, and Jason could fill you in on those 3 things.
Perfect. So based on how our budget was set up, it was not set up to have half a year of an executive officer under professional services, which is how we currently pay for executive officer services, since we're paying for those services through Plan West Partners. So that is like the biggest part that needs to be adjusted and fixed for. And then we're also going to be bringing Plan West on to do MSR work, which was also not planned for in the current budget. So that line item in and of itself is the biggest fix and change. To go also into the other line items, legal services, there are 2 parts of the legal services that we need to look at. Costs and expenses for our workers' comp case have been a little bit higher than I think maybe what was anticipated originally, so I am trying to adjust for that. And then also considering that the executive officer search went into this fiscal year, I think everyone at the time felt that maybe you would have an executive officer before the beginning of the current fiscal year. Legal services on that side have also been a little bit higher than I think anticipated. So you'll see in the report that, I'm requesting line item changes on that. And then the third one is we got a new server because our old server had security flaws in it because it was an old version of Windows that couldn't be secure anymore. So we had to change our server. So that is the third line item that really needs to be changed. And that one is the smallest of the 3 changes that are occurring. What I do is, and you're going to see me talking about this more as we're moving forward in things, and for the budget committee, I now have the correct terms from our auditor, so you'll actually hear me using the terms that we should be using. And I apologize, I'm realizing I forgot to change one of the words in this chart to the correct term. But there's fund balance, which is money that comes from the previous year that was left over. That is our fund balance. And so previously, the commission had already approved the MSR work and to use the fund balance to do that work. The other one that comes from the fund balance in this line item change is for work for our workers' comp case. It turns out that prior to me being here, that there were some bills that had not been paid. I think that they were being sent to the wrong place or to the wrong person, and that person necessarily didn't get them to the correct person to get them paid. So when once after I started, I got this email saying, you have these few bills that are outstanding. I went through, verified that yes, these were the exact months that we were missing. We had paid all of our workers, all these legal costs, except for these specific months, and these were the bills that were missing. I verified with the people that were involved in that issue. They verified that yes, that work had been done. So I went ahead and paid that. So I'm using the fund, I'm suggesting that we use the fund balance and the budget committee approve that to say, this is really money that should have been paid for out of last year's budget, because that's when the bills were supposed to have been paid. So we're using the fund balance to pay that. The other line items are all shifting of this year's stuff. And basically because most of this year's issues really come around the fact that we're doing staffing in a different way than anticipated. I basically took all the money that was needed out of the line item for staff funds to pay staff and move from salaries and move those line items around to cover the other ones. We will still have more than enough money in the staffing fund line item in order to pay the budget or for the rest of this year with staff coming back on board. So I am very comfortable that our numbers will look a little bit better. And you won't see, if you actually look at the attachment, you'll see that there are some line items, especially professional services, that are already over budget. This will put them back into budget under the line items with the adjustments. And I think this is always something that you should be doing anyways halfway through the year, is taking a look. What were the unanticipated costs and how do you fix for those and make sure that you're staying on budget? Not just big picture, but by line item as well. So that's what I'm proposing. The budget committee accepted these changes and are recommending them to you tonight. I will answer any questions if you have them.
Sorry, what was the thing you said that didn't get corrected?
Oh, if you look under the total amount of the top chart, under funds from fund balance, you'll see fiscal year 17-18. That should actually say fund balance on it.
Okay.
That was the one I didn't catch. The rest of my change, it used that whole chart for those that are on the budget committee. Remember, those all said 17-18.
Okay. Any other comments from the rest of the budget committee?
When you give us reports from different committees, the budget committee, legislative, and so forth, you're the common denominator. Obviously, this is your staff report. But I think it's good form to also somewhere indicate who the participants in each of those committees.
Sure.
They're not just anonymous. You know who they are right off the top of your head, but we don't.
Thank you. That's a good,
Okay.
that's a good catch.
Yeah, maybe what I'll do in the future is make the memos from myself and the members of the committee itself as a good way to indicate who serves on that committee, or at least who was at the meeting when this item was approved.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well,
Good catch.
Chair, for the second. I don't seem that, I didn't get it, but maybe the other members did. There was nothing here for the policy and personnel reports. Item 11,
Well, when we get to that item, that'll be explained why there's no action item under that one. It's just more of a
we
report.
ought to say verbal report in here or something.
Well, the meeting had not occurred when the agenda was done, so we could have potentially brought something to you today to
Okay, well,
approve.
just say something, so we're
Okay.
not looking like it got lost or something.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Understandable.
thank you.
Good. Any other questions or comments? I'll open the public comment. Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. A motion to accept the report? Anyone?
So,
Moved by Commissioner Baker. Second?
I'll second.
Is that Commissioner Skelton?
Yes.
Yeah. Second, Commissioner Skelton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes. All right. Item 10, Legislative Committee report.
Would the chair of the legislative committee like to say anything before I do the report? No? Okay. Then I will go ahead and give the report. The committee had a discussion about, we first started off with a discussion about just how Sacramento in and of itself works. And then we had a discussion about how Cal LAFCo does its approval process for legislation in Sacramento. And then we had to finish that up with a discussion about ourselves and how we should function and work perhaps in the future. We don't have very good policies within LAFCO, the policy handbook, we have a lot of various things in there, but that particular section is a little light on authority and how things can work. In San Francisco, I will draw myself back to when I was executive officer of San Francisco for a minute here. When we were there, when legislation was going through, we really didn't focus too much, to be fair, on LAFCO legislation. It was much more about the clean power and clean energies type stuff, because that was what that LAFCO was focused on. And we had authority, I had authority there to deal with legislation without having to go back to the commission in certain cases and in certain instances. And there's just nothing here that allows me to do that. When things were going through at the end of the current, or the last legislative cycle that just ended, letters were coming from Cal LAFCO asking, can you send letters of support? Can you do this? Can you do that? And there really was no good way for us here in Marin to really take action to support our sister agencies across the state when they needed our support with the other LAFCOs. So a good portion of our discussion was about, how do we create such a policy? Can we do something here that will allow Marin LAFCO to be a better partner with all the other LAFCOs across the state? And then that didn't also involve down to, should we also be having a discussion about supporting our other local jurisdictions here, the special districts and the cities, if they've got something going through that impacts them, and maybe we can write a letter of support that helps them, that doesn't impact LAFCO negatively in any way, should we be supporting them? So part of the question that came up, and this was the first of the 4 committees that actually met, the question that kind of came up is, do the committees themselves have the authority to write policies for the body and then bring them to the full body, or does the policy committee be the ones that actually write the policies up and bring that to the full body? On a 2-to-1 vote of the committee, there was a decision to bring to this body to request that the legislative committee be given authority to write its own legislative policies and bring them back to the full body for approval, and not have to go to the policy committee, because there was some not understanding, because the policy handbook isn't really clear on that front as to who has the authority to write stuff. So the item that's in front of you today in this particular request is, can the legislative committee have the authority to do that? And I see the chair of the committee is raising his hand.
Yeah, and we just had a modest discussion, and I sort of in the minority felt that in the past, at least in my brief past with this group, it's been at least a courtesy to bring things back through the policy committee, which included the chair of the group, and it was never any repercussions. Things just seemed to go through, rather than just one of the subcommittees, perhaps the chair, bring something back to the full commission. And so that's why it was a 2-to-1 vote on that.
I just wanted to add, if you did bring that back to the policy committee, then I think you'd probably end up having a quorum of the commission reviewing that, and that would create a separate Brown Act issue. So just to keep that in mind, if that's the direction you wanted to do, it'd probably be easier to just bring it back to the full commission to avoid that issue.
Any other questions on this? Open public comment. Seeing none, close public comment. Any further deliberations?
Yeah, I'll comment on, as a member of that subcommittee. We thought that it would be efficient and effective to have the committee that is working within the policy framework to actually craft the policy and then present it to the entire commission to give input, clarify, correct, revise, and or adopt. And what we received from the interim executive officer, soon-to-be executive officer, was, a recommendation that we don't have the framework in place right now to be responsive to sister agencies, and it's something that would kind of fall within best management practices for updating our policy handbook. So I think it's important to have the legislative committee be granted the authority to craft this, present it to the commission, and hopefully we'd be presenting it at or around the February hearing so that there's time to respond to the next legislative session.
So we either, for what you just said, we either have to say the legislative committee will draft this, or the policy committee will draft it, and not that it will go from one to the other. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
I would make a motion to adopt staff report recommendation, the staff recommendation.
to second that? I'll second it.
Moved by Commissioner Skelton and seconded by Commissioner Brown. Oops. Moved by Commissioner Skelton, seconded by Commissioner Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, one abstention. Commissioner Baker abstains. All right, motion passes. Thank you for your work, Legislative Committee. And on to Policy and Personnel.
Would the chair of the Policy Personnel Committee like to say anything first, or you want me to get into the report?
I think that was me, right? Am I
Yeah.
the chair? Yeah. No, you can go. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the Policy and Personnel Committee had a meeting. We have the legal count, Mala and myself both did a very thorough read through of the current policy and came up with some issues that were in there. The one that you're probably already well aware of is how the public seat gets selected. As I've mentioned in the past, we have part of our policy, it actually goes against state government code, so we wanted to correct that. We also have a whole bunch of other, there are some other places where Mala caught or I've mentioned to her, like, wait, this state government code in a policy handbook doesn't really match state government code, what it currently says. So we went through and corrected all of those types of things and put those in there. And then there's just a bunch of other things that we felt that maybe after having had this for a couple of years need to be reviewed. This is going to take a while to go through. We got through maybe a third of the policy handbook so far in our first meeting, and we're going to be having a second meeting in January, hopefully, to continue on. So nothing to work off of today, but I would expect that at some point in 2019, we'll come back to you with a whole list of new changes to the policy handbook to make it more modern, more current. The big part that's going to probably take the longest will be the personnel section, because that is actually, in some ways, 2 handbooks ago that was actually done and really will need to be reworked, although part of that is reliant on when the county finally does the final divorce with us of the HR system, because that is a good part of what the policy handbook will have to, personnel section will have to deal with. So I think that there's no action to be taken today. It was more of a report, just so you're aware of what's going on.
Go ahead, Craig.
So Jason, are there any model policy handbooks, Cal LAFCo or others you're looking at, other LAFCos that?
Not really. I think we actually have a pretty in-depth one for the most part. I think ours is probably one of the thicker ones, which, you know, knowing your predecessor who helped create this is not a shock or a surprise. So I think that we are probably one of the models that others look to when people are looking for stuff. It's not to say that we couldn't potentially go look at others, but I haven't really done enough. This one we're trying to, how do we want to function? And I think we've got the big stuff already covered in it, so.
Thank you.
Just noting again, Commissioner Baker's great suggestion that in the future that you put the commission, the committee members and who's the chair and vice chair.
I will be, those will be listed on all future staff members on the items.
Sounds great. Okay. So no action here.
No action needed here.
Good. All right, item 12, Public and Technical Committee.
Does the chair of that one want to make any comments first?
Sure, I'd love to.
Whoops.
Short summary, we received a demonstration of the current LAFCo website, and it is clearly deficient. We agreed very quickly that it was deficient in a number of areas, which was a surprise because some of you may remember we put that website up not very long ago at a cost of $20,000, $25,000. And so it's surprising to see the number of deficiencies that exist today. So once we recognized the deficiencies, we discussed what we could do to correct those. One option is to replace the website again, which would again incur a large sum of money, or we could determine what the deficiencies are and see if we could have somebody correct the deficiencies with the existing platform. And so essentially what we want to do today is ask for the commission's, the board's approval to release an RFQ so we can get some information about what the pricing and the cost would be to pursue some of those options.
The one thing I'll add to that is that is what the committee recommended. I am actually adding a small caveat into that. I would suggest that the commission give authority to that committee to issue the RFQ without having to come back here to get final approval on the issuance of the RFQ. This will not be to approve anything other than let us get it out there, because they will meet a lot quicker than this body will meet. And the thing that is kind of key semi-importance is our contract expires in August of 2019. So to the degree we can get the RFQ out on the street sooner rather than later, would be better for us, because hopefully then we could have something in place and ready to go. If we decided to go with a replacement, the commission, it would come back to the commission would approve it, and then we would be able to get something up and running before the August, the 3-year contract expires. Should we go down that road? Like I said, this is only to allow the committee to issue the RFQ without having to come back here. But if the body wanted to have it come back here, we would bring it back to you in February.
Commissioner Murray, do you have a question?
So to me, that sounds fine. RFQ, going out, see who's out there. I think the Cal LAFCo conference is a good group. And then next step would be an RFP, kind of determine what you want, and then put that out to some selected groups.
Actually, the RFQ can cover what we need, because the RFQ will give us who's available, what their costs are, and then we can cherry pick what we want to do out of all the applicants who apply. So it's a different process than an RFP, where you put out and then you have to pick whoever the highest bidder is, or whoever scores the highest number of points in your process. An RFQ actually allows you to play with it a little bit more and actually determine, you know what, we want to redo our platform, but we also need to bring someone in to help us do it. You know, it gives you a lot more options, where an RFP is very structured and set, and you don't have to do an RFP if you've done an RFQ.
Any other questions? Would anyone like to make, open the public comment? Seeing none, close public comment. Anybody would like to make a motion on that?
Sure. As a member of the committee, I'd make a motion to adopt staff's recommendation.
And I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Skelton, seconded by Commissioner Brown. All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you for your work on that. That's going to be a big project. All right. Item number 13, approval of the meeting schedule for 2019.
So what you have in front of you is the meeting schedule for 2013. We put together a
19.
calendar based on no. We need to do approve we already kind of predetermined what our calendar is going to be, which is the second Thursday, or the second Thursday of even numbered months based on our policy handbook, but we do every year have to approve that. The calendar you have in front of you does have that in it. We also put in there when committees are meeting, at least the ones that we know about early in the year. You will see every meeting will put a calendar into the agenda based on a request from one of the commissioners. So you're always aware of what's coming up in the future. We also put in the dates that LAFCo's office will be closed. Those dates are based off of the county and what they do. I understand that that's the policy that we have, is we close the same days that the county closes. So that's why you see those dates listed there. The one thing that I left open for discussion, when we get later in the agenda, you'll see that we talk about the MSR for San Rafael and Novato. There's a calendar, and you'll see at the very end of that calendar that there's a kind of a open-ended period of when Task 4 and Task 5 get completed. Staff's recommendation, or staff suggestion, I should say, it's not really it's more of a suggestion than a recommendation, is if we wanted to do public hearings for the 2 MSRs within the regions of those MSRs, which I think is a good concept and a good idea. I know that this kind of flows in with what we talked about at the workshop about wanting to be out more available to the public. The calendar would allow us to, and Plan West is very confident that they will have completed the drafts by May. So we very easily could go in May out to do these 2 hearings. We could either pick those dates tonight, or you could give me some freedom to work with the chair and work with all of your schedules to find the dates that work best, and do 2 regional MSR hearings in May to deal with those issues that are happening. And then depending on that's how this impacts this calendar. When we get to the MSR, we can talk about how that potentially impacts when the final reports are done, but that's not really part of this particular calendar today, or this part of the item. So that's just wanted to get feedback if you thought we wanted to add in 1 or 2 hearing dates in May for MSRs.
And those would be noticed regular commission meetings, Mala? Would that be with the attendance of the full commission, or would the commissioners be?
I presume it would be a special meeting.
It would be a special meeting because it's not part of your regular policy handbook dates, but yes.
So, and these would be to seek public input, or would it be to?
It would be a combination of to seek public input as well as to have the drafts presented to the commission as well. So we would be doing both of the items together. I always like to have a good public comment period where you're focusing just on the MSR. I think is key and critical because there's going to be a lot to talk about. I'm sure you'll have a lot of public comments. So if you did that during one of your regular meetings, you're potentially being here until midnight because you're going to have to deal with that plus everything else we do.
And then would the idea be bring the final version back August or October?
The final version would either then come back in June or August if we did the May ones. I am predicting more August. If they did a really, really good job and everyone was extremely happy with it, which I'm hopeful that it would be, but I'm being semi-realistic that there's going to be some comments. They're probably going to need a little more time than what June would give them, but they should be completed by August if we went down that path.
Great.
Any other questions?
I had a question just about the calendar. The staff workshop in April, it bookends a hearing. Is that going to be problematic for staff in getting staff reports, materials being available?
That won't be a problem for us because my staff reports are done the week prior.
Yep.
What it will mean is that if I go to the staff workshop, I am driving back here. The staff is driving back up here Thursday midday, and we'll determine if Friday is worthwhile to go back down there or not. I may personally go back down there. Other staff may not, just because of where I live. It's not too difficult for me to get to San Jose from home, so.
Okay.
I put that on there just so you were aware that it was there. If you wanted to change the meeting, feel free to do so, but I'm not asking for that to occur.
I'd like to bring it back at the February meeting just to make a decision on whether or not to kick that meeting to the first Thursday or the third Thursday if the commission feels strongly one way or another.
Sure, I can do that. All right, any public comment on this one? Seeing none, closing the public comment. Any further deliberation, or if anyone want to make a motion on this?
I'll move the calendar.
Moved by Vice Chair Murray, second by Commissioner Baker. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right. And now we are on to Executive Officer Report.
There we go. Sure, Jason Fried here, the Executive Officer Report. The first item for you is the budget update. You know, if the bills are there, what we've paid, what you have. If you have any questions on it, I'm happy to answer it, but I don't really have much more to report on than that. Moving on to the next one then, this is kind of the biggest of the items for the Executive Officer Report. There's been quite a bit of activity, as you saw earlier in the meeting, with 4 different file applications being on our agenda in the same day. So there has been a bit of activity around that. So you have those updates. The one thing that we didn't actually deal with today that was on there, there's actually 2 items. I want to take it back. 2 items that we need to talk about. One is file 1335. We are continuing to have discussions with the city of San Rafael and the applicant. I understand that the city of San Rafael is having a closed session on Monday about this item. Not sure where that's going to go, but just wanted to make you aware that they are having a closed session to have a discussion about what they want to do with that. Right now, they're basically at the point of there's the tax exchange needs to be approved by both bodies. I don't believe either body has actually approved, but it's a detachment from San Rafael attaching to Ross. It's right on the border. So there is some discussion around a tax exchange and stuff like that. It's been a long, lengthy process. San Rafael is being the ones that gets detached, has that 60-day rule. So although that 60-day rule is technically passed by now, so they don't really get that anymore. So tax exchange is the big one for them. When I hear more on that, I will let you know. The bigger one for me is 1328. It's 255 Margarita Drive. It was supposed to be an annexation to SRSD. You might recognize this one. It was an out-of-service agreement originally. The people connected into the sanitary district without really getting permission or approvals from anybody. They did it incorrectly according to the sanitary district and the applicant. This application, from my perspective, has died. It was supposed to have been acted on and done. The applicant never came to terms with San Rafael. This should have been completed by February of this year, wasn't, and this should have actually been put in our dead file, for the lack of a better term. Yes.
What's the location of that property?
That property is 255 Margarita Drive. And they're in the San Rafael Sanitation District. I couldn't tell you exactly where. I don't have the map in front of me.
The boundary. They're off the point 780.
I don't know the area well enough to tell you. Yeah. Okay. Basically, I've had discussions with the city or with the sanitation district who oversees, it was overseen by the city, and have informed them that that they have every right to disconnect. We have not sent any official letters yet to that, in that regards. In talking with legal counsel a while ago about this, we are of the opinion that if we wanted to, we could send a very threatening letter or a nice threatening letter or some other form of a letter, basically saying, you are now in violation. You have not gone through the LAFCo process properly. You should not be connected to this. You need to make whatever changes need to do. You need to reapply. And if you want to stay connected, I'm kind of looking for some guidance of what has occurred in the past when someone has ignored LAFCO and the LAFCO process. Or if we've ever had that happen before, I don't know. So I'm just looking to see what thoughts are from all of you as to what we should be doing next.
If I understood, unauthorized connection. This unauthorized connection, is this fairly recent or way back or?
This was connected, from what I understand, it may have been some sort of failing septic type system, and so we allowed them to do it like it was allowed to kind of be done as an emergency situation.
Yeah.
And then they decided, well, we're connected, so we don't care about figuring out the rest of it. That's the impression I get from talking with, and not talking with the sanitary district, but talking with former LAFCO staff. It was kind of like the impression was we gave them every opportunity, and they just kind of walked away from the process because they're connected, they're getting services. They are paying bills to the sanitary district. I did check in with them, make sure at least they were paying the bills so the sanitary district isn't getting ripped off from that end. But they still have not gone through the LAFCO process correctly. And to me, that's very irritating. I am more than happy to draft up, with Mala's help, a very threatening letter. But I wanted to see what the appetite of the commission was before I actually did that.
Do you know if they've paid annexation fees to the district?
From what I understand, the only thing that they're paying right now is the sewer bill itself, and there's no other way to charge them because they're not technically in the district.
They paid an application fee, though.
Oh, yes, they did pay an application fee, but that was quite a while ago, and that process has ended.
But the connection fees to the sanitary district have not been paid?
I don't believe so.
Have you talked with the sanitary district?
Yes, I've talked with Doris over there. She's aware of it, and I think she kind of has been like me, like they're just not replying back to our stuff.
We'll be interested to see where this goes forward. Certainly, as part of LAFCO, we would like to see certain things. I think we've had other homeowners in that area that really don't care if they're part of the city or unincorporated area. Certainly, as LAFCO, we want to see the dual annexation policy enacted. We want to see the homeowner cooperate, particularly if the homeowner doesn't care one way or another. It's a chance, and a rare chance, for us to start to correct some of these things. So I think whatever letter that goes out, we need to state what LAFCO wants and compel the owner to follow the process just like anyone else has. And then, I guess the sanitation district could kind of carry their own water in regards to fees or anything they've lost, but they're probably waiting for us to take care of our process first.
I think they're waiting for the process itself to be completed. I don't necessarily think they're waiting for us in and of itself. They're waiting more for the applicant to agree. What part of the problem is, from what I understand, is the applicant, when they put something in, they did not put in the correct lateral or the correct type of system to connect to them. And so the sewer district is like, well, you need to change out the system before we can make any agreements. If you change out the system to what's approved by us, we will come to the agreement and we can solve this problem. But the applicant has refused, from what I can tell at least, to actually agree to change out their lateral.
So is this, if you rolled the clock back, they had a failing septic system, really be a county health issue. County health issue would be the group that basically enforce, that would start the process. So to me, it seemed like the county health may need to get involved with the sanitation district in regards to standards not being met, at least health standards. And then in terms of process standards, the letter that our executive officer and attorney could draft up, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, no, I think I get the impression impression of where we should go now, and I'll work with Kamala to make sure that we get the correct letter out.
I have a quick question on this. We work on a cost recovery application fee basis, right?
Yes, a version of it. We come up with an average, and then we charge. That's how our fee is created based on an average.
And has this applicant exhausted their deposit or their fee?
I would say this applicant has definitely exhausted their fee because the application is now dead. So if they want to go back through this process, while the commission has the ability to waive since they've already gone through it once, the commission also has to say, nope, you have to start from scratch again, and you have to give us an entirely new, brand new fee to deal with all this. And I would not be opposed whatsoever in doing that.
And other point of clarification, do applications die on the vine just by way of time? Or is there a policy?
Once you approve an application, and this was approved, if it's approved with conditions, they have 1 year to deal with it. If after that year you can give them an extension, which is what we saw earlier in the meeting, you gave them an extension, but it was not for a full year, which is the right of the commission. The commission can give an extension for however much time it wanted. It gave them an extension till February. If you do not complete this by February, I don't remember the specific date, but it was in February. If you don't complete this by then, this application becomes dead, and that's what occurred. So prior to me even starting, this application was dead. This has been a dead application since I got here. It just took me a little bit of time to unwind it and figure out it's actually dead.
Yep, Janice.
Jason, just to follow up on that, on your chart under status, maybe a little more information about dates or more information about the application, some indication that, it expires at a certain time, or anyway, just some reference to, 'cause I don't have a clue when any of these were submitted or, yeah. Okay, thanks.
I think the ones I will add dates to are the ones where there's already been approvals for. If there hasn't been approvals yet, there won't be a date on it because there's no timing clock.
Just a little more information about the timing.
Yeah, I can figure that out.
Great comment. Okay, section C.
Section C is an update on the MSRs. As we kind of talked about it a little bit already. I have met with all of the agency heads or their designees to talk to them about the MSRs. We've also done a informational workshop with all of the districts. All but 2 of them actually showed up to that. That was done in conjunction with Plan West. We actually had them via FaceTime or we used a GoToMeeting, one of those things to get them in. So they were from up in their area, and we were talking a lot of good questions were asked during that meeting from all the districts, curious like how this process works, how it's working this time. So we now have a pretty good list. As you will see in the attachment to this, there's a timeline for when we are expecting things to be done as each of those timelines comes about. I know that many of you were like, I want to see drafts, I want to see what the product looks like. As each of these tasks are being done, I will be given copies of those drafts, and I will then share them with all of you. So you will have not just one time to look at it, but you will be looking at sections of them as they are getting completed. The first part is always just like the high-level research. They're right now, for the lack of a better term, going over the website, seeing what's available publicly so they can figure out how to get that. And then from that, they then ask questions to the districts saying like what they couldn't find that they needed to be able to find. Which is in some ways a very good way to find out how easy is it for the public to actually find information. Can they get the information that they need? And if they can't get it off the website, they then ask, and that kind of becomes a clue to us, how good is your website? So it's actually a very fascinating way of doing an MSR research is to first do the public and then go to the agencies and ask them, here's the stuff we're missing, here's what you need to still provide to us. So there's that part. Then we get on to like a review of what's going on. We will share reviews of the agencies with the agencies first. And to be fair, I will probably share those with the agencies before they share them with you, mainly because we want to make sure we get our history and our facts about the agencies correct. So they will get a chance to look at that. This will not be a chance for them to debate whether they agree or disagree with us on some philosophical issue, but this is more about the facts of the agency. You were formed when, your budget is what, your commissioners are who, that type of stuff to make sure we have all of our facts correct, that we have the correct maps in place, that we're utilizing the same information that they're utilizing, and that our research was correct of what we did on them. And then after that, they will then do a draft of the report. We will get that out to the general public once the draft is complete, and of course you will also get that. Our plan to have that done in May, as you know, through our schedule. And then depending on how many comments come back from that, we will then go to June or June or August meeting for final approval, hopefully, of those reports. So you will have multiple chances to look at the reports or different sections of the reports as it's coming together, and then be able to look at it all as one in a draft, and then hopefully a final approval. If you have any questions on the MSRs, happy to take them.
Also, just wanted to note that San Rafael is doing a general plan update right now. I know that their staff was particularly concerned that our work was going to negatively impact them when they're in the middle of something. And I think that Jason has done a good job of alleviating some of those concerns with the city manager. So I think we're going to get some good cooperation from them based on that relationship building that you've been doing. So thank you for doing that.
I'm sorry, one other thing to quickly add is I also am about to start doing their outreach.
And obviously use us as a resource to the
Yeah.
extent you need.
Absolutely, which gets to my asking for resources. I am about to go start doing my outreach to all the community groups that I can possibly get my hands on. If any of you know good community groups in the San Rafael or the Novato areas, particularly I'm very interested in finding the islands, and like if there's community groups within the islands. Los Rancheros, don't worry about them. They contacted us before we even started this process. But if you have any of the other islands in the San Rafael area, I'd love to talk with them. Also, any of the islands up in Novato, I definitely want to make sure we're getting a good history and knowledge of what the islands are, why they exist. One of the commitments I did make to the Los Rancheros folks was we were trying
Los Ranchitos.
Los Ranchitos, I'm sorry. Los Ranchitos group was to get a good history of why the island is there and how it's there, so that there's an understanding, because their concern to me was every few years one of these things occurs and we have to come back and argue with people what's going on, and there's no history lesson here. And so I told them, if you get me the history, we will figure out how to put it into the report so the history is there. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the commissioners.
Jason, I just noticed one thing that you might want to address. In 22-23, the Southern Marin wastewater study, it fails to identify the Tampa Community Service District, which provides sewer district and should be included in that discussion.
I will do that. I had not gotten to the discussion about the future MSRs. That is something else
Yeah,
that I
just
wanted to
for your
discuss.
schedule, it's
Yeah.
something that shouldn't be left off. And then I guess I'm assuming that, looking at the schedule, the water districts, the large water districts are after 2023 at this point?
Yeah, well, we did those 2 years ago, so I would assume we would come back and revisit those after this current cycle is done. I do want to have a discussion about the MSR schedule as a whole, but I first wanted to have a discussion just about the two that we're working on. If we have no more questions on that, I do want to get to the full schedule, because there were some issues, actually, Commissioner Rodoni, that you brought up at the last meeting that I realized need to be corrected.
Go ahead.
Okay, so any other questions on the current MSRs? Okay, so getting to the full schedule, as Commissioner Rodoni pointed out at the last meeting, he noticed that there was a missing MSR for a West Marin area. It turns out we're not just missing one, we're missing several of them, which is rather disappointing. I apologize to you, I was just taking what had been the previous schedule and just repeating it. And when I went through and looked at them all, I realized that there was an issue there. I also noticed that we had one that is a two-county district. The way those work by state government code is the county that has the larger property tax of that district is the county that actually does the MSR and is the official authorized agent, the official LAFCo to actually deal with it. Sonoma County and us share that district. Sonoma County, from what I understand, has a larger tax base than we have. Therefore, they are the lead agency on it. What I would suggest doing is that we take that off of our list. We do have the right, if we wanted to go to Sonoma and ask them, give us authority over this district, but they have the right to refuse it.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm not sure. Can you be more specific?
It's the mosquito abatement district.
Oh, that, okay.
Vector control.
Yeah, Vector, yeah, the mosquito, Vector, those folks. It's a two-county district. Right now, I would say let them continue to have control of it, maintain it, because this does two things. One, it takes one of them off of our plate. It allows us to actually then have a spot where we can put all of our missing West Marin districts. And I want to get to those West Marin districts. I also would suggest that perhaps we rearrange the schedule just slightly. We take the flood control and storm damage, as you see up there, which is, whoopsie, if I can get the actual date on that one. Oops, wrong way. Which is in 2020, 2021. We moved that one down to where the mosquito vector control one was, and then put the West Marin ones in that spot. it does two things for us. A, it makes sure that we're not making West Marin feel like they're the lost child of our of the county, which they're not. They should be treated equally. But two, all of our other regional studies will be done together as one group, what I call the first half of the 5-year calendar, and then the second half of that 5-year calendar, or the second part of that 5-year calendar becomes all of the issue-specific ones that don't really fit into a region necessarily. So I think it makes a good flow of things as well to make that change. So I'm not necessarily asking for a full permission tonight. We can think about it a little bit more, but that is something that we might want to do with our schedule.
Maybe we leave the vector control, we put it on the, like at the bottom, like with an asterisk or something like that, so that at least people kind of know that it's not ignored, but that it's being covered by, I mean, take it off the schedule in terms of work, but leave it on the sheet with an asterisk at the bottom.
Yeah, no, yeah, we can put an asterisk that it's Sonoma County's responsibility,
right.
that they are the lead agency, or lead LAFCO.
Jason, just on the point, want to make sure that folks that are concerned about the vector control, let's say if it's use of permethrin and things like this, then they have an opportunity, even though they're here in Marin, to know when Sonoma may get to that. So it might be a conversation with Mark Bramlett, and certainly if they're accepting of it, refer folks to Sonoma County to provide those comments or concerns and when they do get to that study. But I agree, maybe keep it somehow in the schedule so they will know it's tracking and this is where they go to provide comment.
Happy to do that. I will remind you, since you were actually at the Cal LAFCo conference, Mark was the one who said that they never do MSRs unless absolutely necessary. So I don't know when the next time is that they will actually do an MSR on that district.
All right.
So then moving on to the next one. The next one is the Central Marin Fire JPA. Did you get copies of that? The letter? You, I think, may have a copy of the letter. If not, then Vito will provide a copy of the letter to you about Central Marin. You may remember that the commission has authorized the executive officer in very specific situations when 2 fire districts meet a whole bunch of different criteria to authorize a JPA to be formed without having to come back to the commission. The city of Larkspur and the town of Corte Madero have met such requirements. They submitted a bunch of information to me the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and I have 30 days to review and analyze it and get back to them. I actually didn't take the full 30 days. I have reviewed, analyzed, and earlier this week, I actually sent them a letter saying that they are now authorized to form a JPA. Starting February 1st, we will have the Central Marin Fire Authority in operation. So I send congratulations to them. They did an excellent job. We had a couple meetings to go over stuff with the town manager and the city manager of those 2 jurisdictions. They provided me a whole bunch of information, pretty much all of it exactly as I wanted it. I think that there might be one thing that we may want to add to our policy when we are reviewing that section of the policy. We talk about what is required on the Marin LAFCo side, but we fail to talk about that they actually need to meet the state government code that lets them get to the LAFCO process. So I think that we just need to put a small clarification in there, and that was something Mal and I were having a discussion about as I was going through this process, just making sure I wasn't messing anything up, because it's kind of the first time that we've done this here, and is really one of the first that has been done in the state under this new state government code. So
Jason, as I remember this process, it's new state law, and then in Marin, with our fire departments, they have created their own policies in terms of interpreting that state law with LAFCO concurrence that they could process and go forward and developing their JPA with these Marin policies in place.
I would say it's slightly different. They helped us draft the LAFCO policy. It is our own specific policy. It is not their policy. It is our policy that they have to do. But from what I understand, that they helped Keene when he was still here draft that particular policy.
Well, and the deal was if you're changing more than 25% of the staff classifications or the territory, that this would trigger a rigorous financial review. But in the case of Central Marin Fire Authority, it's City of Larkspur and Town of Corte Madera, and the new authority is coterminous with the old. So we felt that was an exception that we could make in our policy. And Dan Schwartz, the town manager of the city manager of Larkspur, is the former executive officer of Marin LAFCo, and I think was very helpful in drafting that policy so that it all fit together.
Correct. So if
So
no,
that has to be added to our study schedule as well.
yeah, what I will do is I will end up just tossing that when we do, those two communities happen to be their own study area or region. So when we do that study region after February 1st, I will throw them into the mix of what we do when we get to that. They're a couple years down the road. So when we get to that point, they will be up and running and functioning, and it'll be a good time to take a look at what they're doing.
So you said there was a letter that you'll send that out?
Yes, we did. I thought we brought copies of that today. No, oh, we did not bring copies of that today. I apologize. I thought we had copies in the bag for you, but I will email that around to folks so you have that. And then the last item under the executive officer's report is correspondence and Marin LAFCo news. I kind of put two things together in one. Anytime we get letters that are addressed to the commission, it has to be in a public record form. So I am adding this anytime that we have correspondence. It's rare that we get correspondence to the whole commission. I will put it in the packet. If it's actually something that I feel is pertinent and time sensitive, I will actually send out to you all ahead of time. But when it's something that's, as you see in the letter, it's a thank you letter from Cal LAFCo for attending the conference. I didn't think that you needed a special email just to get that letter. So I just threw it into the packet. And then also, I always do, anytime that I see news articles, and to be fair, sometimes the news articles come from one of you first, and then you send it to me, and then I see it, and then I send it out to everyone else. So anytime that we have news articles, I will email those out, but I will also put those into the packet. So if in the future you're ever like, yeah, remember there was some news article back in some time frame, and you will have an easier way to find it if it's about LAFCO. You just can go back to our packet and find it that way. So that'll be something, a feature that you'll see moving forward should we ever be in the news and or get letters from someone from the public. And that's it for my executive officer's report.
All righty. Okay, are any commissioner announcements or requests? All right, seeing none, we will, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Commissioner Baker, seconded by Commissioner Brown. All in favor? Aye. All right, any opposed? Any abstentions? We're adjourned to the February 14th meeting.